Hey everybody, I'm Doug Mark, president of Learning Zen, and I'm here with 5 franchising questions with my special guest today, Cater Danford from Northeast Color. Cater, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for being here today. It's great to see you again.
Great way to end the week. I'm so glad you asked. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell the community a little bit about really what is Northeast Color? How do you all get started and how do you support franchising?
Well, I'll be happy to. Northeast Color is over 40 years old, and my brother-in-law started it. My sister came in and was the financing person. Small company, about 21 years ago. Oh, they were doing large format printing. That was what they were known for. 21 years ago, Planet Fitness came to us on their 3rd location. They happen to be local in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and we helped them with a small project. And next thing you know, 8 years later, they're exploding, and we're doing it with them. We have had a wild ride, a phenomenal one, and we have opened up over 2,000 locations together. We provide the branded environments. We do anything that tells you you're in that space, whether it be printed, that we have created some. We have an R&D department that creates backlit elements, the vinyl, the wall, the floors, the ceilings, everything.
The signage everywhere, right? Like, yeah.
Every purple and yellow that you can see in a Planet Fitness, it's our ink. That's what brought us into franchising. And so about 8 years ago, we were like, there's something about this franchising. I think we're just going to focus there. Because we also used to do a lot of commercial accounts, Timberland, things like that. So yes, franchising. As they will tell you, it takes 3 to 5 years to really get going in this. I'm almost on my 4th year, and it did take at least 3 years for people to understand who we are, know me, get to know Derek was also helping do the business development the 2 years before that. So along with that, I would say this last IFA was like a crescendo of our efforts, because at this point, many people at least know who we are or recognize our name and sort of what we do.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that it has been a fabulous experience. I just so wish that franchising found me sooner. I would have thrived in this type of environment. The community is fabulous. So with a family-owned company that really cares deeply, we have just taken those same values and principles and applied it towards the franchise community. And it's just an automatic alignment. It's great.
Well, that's awesome. And I will tell you that it's never too late for you to flourish in franchising. This group, I really feel like, supports people from their 20s to their 80s. And everyone kind of in between. And I had a similar start, I feel like, that you did, which is it took Learning Zen a while to really, I would say, be a recognized name in franchising. And it took, going to the events and meeting people and making connections and networking. And I know you're always going to the Women in Franchising Clubhouse, I know, and you're in on the Whiskey Wednesdays, and I see you on LinkedIn all the time. So you're doing all the great things, I think, that everybody does to kind of stay connected in franchising. And I'm glad that you're having that similar experience to what I did, which is realizing, gosh, I wish I had figured this out earlier and started sooner, because this is a really fun sort of family atmosphere. Like these friends become our extended family. And I think it's kind of important when we think about validation in our business. And how do you know when you've met or exceeded your clients' needs? How do you get that trigger?
When through the conversations with corporate, we can understand what they're saying thoroughly, and it fits for the franchisee. So we are constantly looking at, you're a franchisor, this is what you want. How do we make this scalable, replicable, with the economies of scale to give it to your end user at the best value? So sometimes we will value engineer products to immediately, it could be literally shave an inch to save on shipping. Like you could go from ground shipping to freight because it's just an inch or two, a little bit too wide. Or you can set up and put maybe 2 items on the same substrate. So that's a couple of ideas. The other part is we know that we have succeeded when the franchisees are really happy with it and they are in alignment with their franchisors. And this is the second time I've used the word alignment, but there's so much about that is what is success. It's like, it's working and they're happy. And then you get these wonderful, late at night, I'll see a LinkedIn thing saying, oh my God, I love working with you guys. Your customer service is amazing. You've elevated our brand. That's really a key piece. So between that and knowing that the franchisees are happy with what they have, we've been able to interpret what the franchisor wants, keep the guardrails on to protect that brand, and then be able to implement it into the individual franchisee locations and have it be consistent no matter where you walk in, when you walk in. 6 months, a year from now, you're going to have the same look and feel wherever you go.
Why is it so important for brands to have good signage?
You want somebody to know that they can depend on what it's going to be like when they go in there and be able to deliver the same, not only the same product, but the same vibe, service. You're going to walk away feeling satisfied that you've gone in there. You had that experience that you expected. And even if it's a new place, typically it will be because somebody's either reviewed about it and you've read it and said, yeah, that looks good, or somebody's referred you to it. Very seldom will you just walk in a place blind without knowing anything nowadays.
Yeah.
And there is a certain expectation set, whether we consciously realize it or not. The reason to brand and brand consistently is to just preserve the legacy of what the business is all about. So color, you mentioned that. Color matching is a really big piece for us. It actually can take up to 2 more weeks when we're onboarding a new client. Depends how many substrates, how many colors we have. Because if we have the same blue on vinyl, PVC, acrylic, ACM, which is aluminum composite material, they're all going to take that color differently. So how do we adjust and calibrate our machines to deliver the same color no matter what the substrate is? The other thing is our printers, even within our own building, will also print differently a little bit. So we have to calibrate. There are no 2 printers that are ever going to give you the same thing exactly without knowing how to dial it in. So we get the PMS colors, but we also have to go an extra layer. And that is really a big piece. And you've been to places that feel like there's continuity or almost.
Yeah.
And then people who really have it.
Yeah.
There are some folks that are just absolutely so dedicated to that part. And that's an ideal client for us. The more invested they are, the more we can deliver what they need. Because once we understand what it is, we will do everything from A to Z to make sure that you're going to have that end product look like that.
Well, and I think that's what's so nice with, what you were talking about with like Planet Fitness. No matter which Planet Fitness you go into around the country, it's a Planet Fitness. Like, exactly what they're serving at Planet Fitness. So that's important. And one of the other things that I think is important with like signage is, honestly, a lot of times now, like, you go into a place and the signage are often like instructions almost talking to the customer. So it's like the signage that's in your building is also teaching the person who's walking in where to line up, how to make a correct order. If you were to walk into Chipotle and they didn't have a menu on the wall to explain it, you'd order a burrito and God knows what they're going to put in it.
Thanks. I have a good example in that came to mind.
Yeah.
California Tortilla, they're out of Maryland. They had rebranded. We took them and modernized their brand, and it was actually quite different. Not always do we get a chance to change something that is quite that different, just because sometimes people want it more gradual. But this was actually 2 comedians started the company, and they wanted a place to be able to do their comedy and eat tacos and have friends gather. And they had neon lights on the ceiling, on the walls. long story short is it's a line and you're going to go through it kind of like the Chipotle idea. And they used to have the signs on the side. And all we did was take those signs and make them hanging so that when you're in line, you're getting it. And it's like, that was a game changer for them. That was really cool. Simple little ideas. We're constantly, again, looking at how to make it better and easier for the customer. First of all, for the franchisee. The franchisor's customer is the franchisee. And then the franchisee's consumers for the most part. And we're always looking for ease of use and do they get it? We know that we want them to be directed and guided a certain way to do what you want to be able to deliver.
Well, when we talked the other day, I, for the first time ever, got to kind of tell the background story to Cater about Learning Zen and how we got started. So we're kind of shifting gears here, and I'm going to go down a different avenue because on your LinkedIn page, of course, I learned more about your background, and there's one thing that really stood out for me. But the reason why Learning Zen started was after 9/11 happened, the FAA had to find a way so that they could train their civilian pilots and do event notifications. And so they actually hired us to build that online training platform for all civilian pilots. The interesting part about that is that, and I didn't know this before, was that you are a pilot or you have been in the past. Is that right? Can you tell us, how did you get into that?
It was therapy. It's something that I've wanted to do. It became a choice. I was at a crossroads in my life and was like, do I spend $5,000 on therapy or do I do it on something I really want to do? Since I've been a kid, I've wanted to fly. I spent my summers like this. Every time I would hear a plane, this is how I was all the time. And it has just always grabbed me in ways. There was times, Lawrence, Massachusetts has a very small airport. You could walk up on the tarmac. And I remember when my aunt came in on a DC-10, I remember it was slanted. It was just I just remember what it looked like. But when that engine pulled up and it was just like making my heart beat fast, I was like, I don't know, 10 maybe. I can still feel exactly what it was like, even in my toes. So I've always wanted to fly. And I would say about 20 years old, I read Jonathan Livingston Seagull about the barnstormer who used to go town to town, rural towns, and take people for rides and do the spins and the rolls and stuff like that. And I thought, that's what I want to do. Now I know what I want to do when I grow up. Anyway, I did choose to go do something fun instead of other ways. And it was the best therapy I could probably ever have done. I've had many pilots tell me the best flying will be during your training. I must have had 100 hours in before I even took the test. I really didn't care about the test as much as I cared about flying. And I took my time. I would get up at like really crack of dawn, would have to hose off the frost, off the wings and take off. And I learned in Marin County where there was a lot of crosswinds. So I learned how to fly in not the best, conditions. So I just got really comfortable with it. I always was. And then they were going to change the airspace. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to relearn all that stuff again. So I was up against the wall. It's like, go do the test now. And my mom, who really encouraged me, I never finished college. And I was about, I was just busy flying. I didn't want to take the test. She goes, just do it. You want to do it, do it. And she gave me that last little extra nudge and belief in me I didn't realize that she even thought it was that worthy. And it really helped. So anyway, that's the real personal story about why I became a pilot. And once you get your certification, you have it forever. I'm not legal right now or safe, but I do hope someday to get back into it. And what that requires is you flying like a couple of times a week. I mean, I got to be in a different situation than I am right now. But I will tell you, I like jumping out of planes just as much. And I was offered to be a wing walker for a guy who did aerobatics. But we would have to practice 3 times a week, and we were about 3 hours away. So I don't know if I ever really would have done it, but it was a fantasy that I strongly considered.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really neat story. And thanks for sharing that. That was really cool. do you personally have a favorite, either funny moment or funny story, or like favorite IFA moment while you've ever been to one of them?
I've been to 3 live ones. This last one was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
was just almost giddy the whole time. Again, the efforts that Northeast Colors put together to support Derek and I to be out there making the connections has really come to fruition. I think the most rewarding, it's not funny, but it's rewarding. So many people came up to our booth and thought they knew what we did, but in reality, they didn't get it. They were like, wow, I had no idea. I just
Yeah.
thought you did print. And I've heard from a couple of different people is that we just really bring the brand alive. And so that felt so good to know that people were really getting it. And there were more familiar faces than ever before. The first 2 years, oh my God, Doug, I was such a deer in the headlights, particularly
Yeah.
the first year. And then the second year, I could see through it a little bit. But this time I like jumped in, I got my CFE, started that, got in 2 days early, started the classes, the leadership classes, and I'm thrilled to be getting more and more involved, with the women in franchising. It has just been a tremendous support, so many ways. And I get to support people. I get to help others. I think one of my favorite moments was our party. We had a really nice party that we had co-hosted with Amanda. And so let's see, we had Alicia Visconti and then Nick from Meridian Bank. And we had such a fun party that the president of our company had to stand and was told to stay, he couldn't get in because it was a standing line, waiting line. Get in, he goes, okay. So that was pretty funny. But what happened that was really cool is we had Emily craft a drink called the
Nice.
Item 19, and it was such a hit. It was wonderful, delicious, and it was a great time.
What is it you love about franchising?
The community. It is community. It's really small when you think about it. I had heard that, when you're getting into it, you better make sure you got your word right because, you do something good, it's going to spread. You do something not so good, it's going to spread and you'll get crushed immediately. And I wasn't so worried about that, but it takes a while to just get, a rep going.
Yeah.
Step by step, little by little, getting to reach out to people and just ask for time to have a virtual coffee, especially over COVID, was what made the difference. I think COVID actually in this case had a big silver lining for me. I do need to do a shout out to Jack Munson. He started a supplier happy hour right during COVID. And I think I missed the first 3 or 4, and then I didn't miss any ever again. I just found out about it. And he was meeting weekly. There would be 3 pages of Hollywood squares. And I'm like, gosh, I might know 1 person or 2, but slowly but surely. And Angela Cote was the first person I asked. I said, would you have, time to just say hi and get to know each other? And she goes, oh, of course. And then I got Rebecca Monet to say hello, Marianne O'Connell. And it was
the last one is kind of a fun question we've been asking of late, which is, let's say it's 5 years from now and you are head of the IFA. Where would we hold the IFA? What city in the United States would we go to?
I would go back to San Diego every single year if I could. But I love San Diego.
I did too. In fact, my whole team just adored it. Ken went off and visited Camp Pendleton. Ken was in the Navy and was a medic and has some history there as well. And then Cassie and I went over to Pacific Beach and hung out there and loved it. And I was able to get a massage while I was in San Diego because my back was killing me. So I had a fantastic time. I love that choice. I would do San Diego every year as well. I absolutely adore going there. So, well, Cater, thank you so much for coming on. We had a great time. I love speaking with you. We can do this anytime that you want. If you could, though, tell our audience real quickly, how do they get in touch with you? What's your email address? And then they can follow you on the socials, I know as well. But what's your email address?
Sure. It's the letter K, Danford, at Northeast Color. And the other is just LinkedIn, Kate or Danford. Can't miss it.
Perfect. Well, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Please make sure to subscribe to the Learning Zen channel. Also, you can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Man, we are blowing up. We're going everywhere with the socials these days. Shout out to my partner in crime, Ken Jordan. Thanks for coming, everybody, and thanks for joining us for 5 franchising questions. We'll see you next week.